they were still officially at war. In 1782, Britain and the American colonies had been fighting for 7 brutal years. Publicly, neither side would admit defeat, but privately, both were exhausted. And peace would not begin in Parliament. It would begin in secret. The American Revolutionary War had drained Britain financially and militarily. The decisive American victory at Yorktown in 1781 changed everything. British General Cornwallis surrendered. But surrender did not automatically mean peace. Negotiations had to happen. And negotiations required trust, something neither side had much of. One of America's chief diplomats was Benjamin Franklin. By 1782, Franklin was already in Europe, working tirelessly to secure French support for the American cause. He was experienced, pragmatic, and he understood something crucial. Peace rarely begins in official halls. It begins in quiet conversations. On the British side was Richard Oswald, a Scottish merchant turned diplomat. Unlike many in Parliament, Oswald believed reconciliation was possible. But openly negotiating with American rebels was politically dangerous. To many in Britain, the colonies were still traitors, so formal talks stalled. Publicly, privately, something else was happening. Accounts from the period suggest that informal discussions took place away from official government chambers. Neutral locations, private homes, commercial spaces, and taverns. Places where conversations could happen quietly, without immediate scrutiny. These early exchanges were not treaty signings. They were exploratory, testing positions, measuring willingness, and slowly building fragile trust. The risk was enormous. If news of premature negotiations leaked, either side could accuse their diplomats of weakness, even betrayal. Britain still had loyalists demanding continued war. America still depended on French alliance agreements. Any misstep could collapse the fragile diplomatic balance. But momentum was building. Both sides understood the war could not continue indefinitely. By mid-1782, negotiations formally moved to Paris. Franklin was joined by John Jay and John Adams. Together, they began drafting what would become the Treaty of Paris. But the groundwork, the tone, the mutual recognition, had already been laid. Through those earlier, quieter contacts, backchannel diplomacy had opened the door. The final treaty terms were extraordinary. Britain recognized the independence of the United States. American territory extended west to the Mississippi River. Fishing rights were granted off Newfoundland. Debts to British creditors would be honored, and prisoners of war would be released. The agreement reshaped global power. On September 3, 1783, the Treaty of Paris was officially signed. The war was over. But the official signing was only the conclusion. Peace had begun months earlier, in private discussions, in rooms without ceremony, in conversations that were never meant to make headlines. History often remembers grand events, declarations, battles, formal signings, but it rarely remembers the quiet moments that make those events possible. The American Revolution did not end in a single dramatic gesture. It ended because individuals chose conversation over pride, because enemies spoke before governments were ready to admit it, because diplomacy sometimes begins in places no one thinks to look. The war between Britain and America reshaped the world. But peace did not begin in a palace. It began in private, in risk, in whispered negotiations, and in the understanding that sometimes history changes at midnight.